You have $0 and one idea. That's it. That's the entire starting position. No trust fund, no investors, no rich uncle who believes in you. And somehow, some people start exactly here and end up controlling business empires worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Not by working 100 times harder than everyone else, but by understanding a structure that almost nobody ever explains. So let's do something different. For the next few minutes, it's not you watching a video, it's you building the thing, step by step, from nothing all the way to $550 million. And I'm going to show you exactly what changes at each level, because the person you have to become at 50 million is nothing like the person who started with an idea and an empty bank account. My name is Nick, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, and specifically about how a small handful of people quietly turn one tiny business into a machine that owns dozens of others. If you've ever heard the phrase holding company and nodded along while having absolutely no idea what it actually means, stick with me, because by the end of this, you'll understand the entire machine. And if this is useful, a like helps it reach other people trying to figure the same thing out. Alright, you've got $0. Let's build. But first, the one concept this entire climb is built on, because if you miss this, none of the levels make sense. A holding company is not a business that sells anything. It doesn't make a product. It doesn't have customers in the normal sense. A holding company is a company whose entire job is to own other companies. That's it. Think of it as an empty container at the top, and underneath it, hang the businesses that actually do the work and make the money. The laundromat, the software company, the trucking firm, whatever. Those are the operating companies. They generate cash. And the holding company sits above them, collecting that cash and using it to buy even more businesses. Once you see that structure, you can't unsee it. It's how Berkshire Hathaway works. It's how most of the quiet rich work. They don't own one big thing. They own the thing that owns the things. Okay, now you understand the machine. Let's go build one from scratch. Level 1. 0 to your first real business. This is the hardest level, and it's where almost everyone stops. So pay attention. Right now you have no holding company because you have nothing to hold. Your only job at level 1 is brutally simple. Build or buy one small business that produces cash flow. Not a business that might be worth something someday. Not a startup burning money chasing a dream, a boring, real cash-producing business. A cleaning service, a small e-commerce store, a local service company. Something that takes in more money than it spends every single month. That monthly profit, that cash flow, is the seed of everything. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. At this level, you are not trying to get rich, you are trying to build one small, reliable engine that spits out cash. Everything else in this entire video is just doing that again and again. Master level 1 and you've done the hardest part. Most people never do. Level 2, your first million, and the birth of the holding company. So your little business is working, it's throwing off cash every month. Now most people do one of two things. They either spend that cash on a nicer life, or they let it pile up in a bank account doing nothing. You're going to do the third thing, the thing that actually builds wealth. You reinvest it. You take that cash flow and you pour it back into growing the business or into buying a second small one. And this is the moment right here where you actually create the holding company. You set up that empty container at the top and your operating business now sits underneath it. On paper, it might feel like nothing changed, but structurally, everything just changed. You are no longer a person who owns a business. You are now a holding company that owns a business with a plan to own more. That shift in identity is the entire game, and it happens right around your first serious money. Level 3, 10 million and the first acquisition. Here's where it gets interesting, because this is where you stop building businesses and start buying them. Up to now, growth meant sweat. More hours, more customers, more grind. But at this level, you make the leap that separates the wealthy from the self-employed. Instead of building a second business from scratch, which takes years, you buy one that already exists and already makes money. You find a small, boring, profitable company whose owner wants to retire. You use the cash flow from your first business, maybe plus a loan, to buy it. And the second that deal closes, you didn't just add a business, you bought a finished cash flow machine that someone else spent 20 years building. This is the unlock. Building is slow, buying is fast. And once you realize you can purchase cash flow instead of sweating for it, your whole idea of growth changes forever. Quick pause, because we're about to hit the level where this stops being about hustle entirely and starts being about something most people never learn. If you're finding this genuinely useful, a like tells the algorithm to show it to more people who are trying to understand how this actually works instead of just being sold a course about it. And I'd love to know in the comments which level you think you're on right now. Okay, back to the climb. Level 4, 50 million and the power of leverage. Now you own a few businesses under your holding company and they're all producing cash. Here's what changes. You stop using only your own money to grow. At this level, you learn to use other people's money intelligently, mostly through debt. And I know, debt is scary. We've talked about how it wrecks people, but there's a crucial difference. When you borrow to buy a business that produces enough cash flow to pay back that loan by itself, the business is essentially buying itself using its own earnings. That's not consumer debt on a depreciating car, that's a tool. So now the pattern accelerates. You use the cash flow from the companies you already own, plus carefully structured debt to acquire bigger companies. Each acquisition adds more cash flow, which supports more borrowing, which funds the next, bigger acquisition. The machine is starting to compound. And notice, you personally are working less on the day-to-day, not more. You're not running the laundromat, you're managing capital. Level 5, 150 million and the flywheel. This is the level almost nobody gets to see up close, so watch what's happening. You now own a portfolio of businesses, and something almost magical kicks in. The cash flow from all of them combined is now large enough that acquisitions start funding acquisitions, almost on their own. You buy a company, improve it, let it generate cash, and that cash helps you buy the next one, around and around. This is the flywheel that people who study Berkshire Hathaway talk about. The businesses feed the holding company deploys that money into more businesses, and the whole thing spins faster, the bigger it gets. Your job at this level is no longer operations. It's not even really deals. It's capital allocation, deciding where the money goes. The single most valuable skill at the top of the money world isn't working hard or even picking businesses. It's deciding out of all the places a dollar could go, which one earns the most. That's the whole job now. Level 6, 550 million, the empire. You made it. At this level, you don't have a business. You have a portfolio of businesses across different industries, all sitting under one holding company that you control. You've spread your risk because if one industry has a bad year, the others carry the weight. You've likely got a team running the operations while you focus almost entirely on strategy and capital. And here's the strange truth about this level. The person sitting at the top of a $550 million holding company often works fewer hours than the person back at level 1 who was scrubbing floors in their first small business. Because the entire climb was never about doing more work, it was about building a structure that does the work for you and then feeds you the capital to buy even more structure. You started with one idea and $0, and you built the thing that owns the things. Now here's where I have to be honest with you, because this is the part the hustle bros conveniently skip. Almost nobody makes it past level 1. Not because the structure is secret, you just learn the whole thing in a few minutes, but because level 1, building that first reliable cash-flowing business, is genuinely brutal, and it can take years of failure to get right. The climb I just showed you can take decades, and plenty of people who do everything correctly still hit a bad economy, a failed acquisition, or a deal that sinks them. Leverage, the same tool that builds empires, has also destroyed plenty of them when the cash flow didn't show up as planned. So this is not a promise that you'll build a $550 million empire. It's a map of how the machine actually works, so that whatever level you're aiming for, whether that's one solid business or a small portfolio, you understand the real structure underneath it instead of the fantasy version. So here's the reframe to take with you. Wealth at this level was never about a genius idea or superhuman hustle. It was about understanding one quiet structure, a company that owns companies and then patiently running the same loop over and over. Build or buy something that makes cash. Use that cash to buy the next thing. Let the machine compound. The people who looked like they got rich overnight almost always spent years grinding through level 1 where nobody was watching. The difference between them and everyone else usually wasn't talent. It was that they understood what they were building, and they didn't stop at the first small win. You came into this with $0 and one idea. Now you have something more valuable than money. You have the actual blueprint. What you build with it is up to you. Quick reminder that I'm not a financial advisor and none of this is financial advice, just a look at how these structures actually work. If this gave you a clearer picture of the machine, a like and a share genuinely help. And I'd love to hear which level you're on in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.